Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Beer with Alan. I'm Alan, and I've had over 3,400 different beers since I started tracking back in 2014. I use the app called Untapped to track, so look me up there under Beer with Alan to see the beers that I've tried. Send me a friend request on there if you're interested. So the first 2 episodes of this podcast have gotten really great feedback, which I really appreciate. I'm going to keep working on this and hopefully settle into a groove that I like and that you guys enjoy listening to. I kind of feel like I don't really know what I'm doing up to this point, but it seems to be working out okay. Again, I'll get better at it as we go along. It should be fun. I've lined up a bunch of great guests to have on the podcast over the next few months. My trip out to the West Coast this past weekend made the timing a little bit tricky for this week as far as getting something scheduled. So today you have just me. Luckily, I like to talk, so we should be good to go. So let me update you on the current state of things. My current beer count is 3,444. Now, I was at 3,434 last week on the podcast, I believe. The count didn't grow as much, believe it or not, because of the beer festival that I went out to on the West Coast. Now, you might think that a beer festival is going to cause the count to go up by a whole lot because I did have a lot of different beers at the fest. But I don't count tasters. I only count a beer if I've had at least 4 ounces or more of the beer. And this tasting glass was fairly small, definitely wasn't getting 4 ounces of those beers. So I wasn't checking them into Untapped, wasn't adding them to my account. But I did experience a lot of different beers, and there were a lot of really good ones. The best beer I had this week was at the festival. It was called Candy Captain by Fontaflora out of North Carolina. This beer was actually a collaboration beer made with Everywhere Brewing from Orange County, California. This won't shock anybody who knows the kind of beer that I really like. This was a barley wine that was aged in bourbon barrels, but it was a little bit unusual. It had coconut added to it, which isn't that unusual, but the other adjunct was hardcap mushrooms. Now, that may sound really strange, but I've actually experienced a couple of beers that have been made with these hardcap mushrooms, and it doesn't taste like what you'd expect from the description. This beer was fantastic. I had a couple different beers from Fontaflora there at their booth at the festival, and I had a lot of different barley wines and stouts that day and all kinds of other styles, IPAs and lagers and sours and lots of different stuff all day. Great beer. But this one really stood out to me. Just an exceptional beer, really complex flavors, and just really tasty. It was strong, but it wasn't overwhelmingly strong. I really enjoyed everything about it. Fontaflora is a brewery that I've had a few different beers from, mostly barley wines. These guys know what they're doing when it comes to barley wine because the ones I've had from them have just been amazing. Each week I've done a short little segment on recent good runs that I've done. Now, if you listen or you watch my videos, you'll know that I'm a runner. I've been a runner since 2010. I've done 16 marathons. I guess I shouldn't say different marathons because I have repeated the Walt Disney World Marathon. I have actually done 3 times. But the rest of them were all different marathons. And I run 5 times a week. It's just something I enjoy doing. Keeps me in shape, allows me to drink all this beer, really. So I like to highlight a good run that I've had in the past week. And this one happened while I was out in California. In Paso Robles, I got to run on Saturday morning before the fest. They have a river walk trail that runs along the Salinas River right there through town. And I did just a nice 4-mile run that morning, Saturday morning. It was I really enjoyed that trail. There was almost nobody on it. It had some nice elevation changes, not like crazy hills, but there was one pretty good hill, nice elevation changes, nice different scenery changes as you went along, different surfaces even. There was some asphalt, there was some just dirt, there was some concrete. I could always do without the concrete, but there was some concrete. It was really great weather for the run. It was warm, but not too warm. Wasn't very humid. Really enjoyed my run. I usually talk about my long run in this segment, and I usually do my long runs on Sunday. But I couldn't run on Sunday because I was traveling all day. I did it on Monday after I got home. I was a little bit jet lagged. It was very warm. I had a terrible run. Really, one of the worst runs I've had in a while. I covered the 10 miles, but it wasn't terribly enjoyable, I have to say. Over the last year, I feel like my running stamina has been down a fair bit. I don't really know why. I feel fine. I'm healthy. Maybe it's just because I'm older. I'm not really sure. I've tried cutting down my mileage a little bit here and there to see if I can get my legs back. I thought I was getting them back, but now that the warmth has gotten here, I feel like I'm struggling again. So hopefully I can work my way through that. So now a little bit of a sports update that I like to do, covering mostly my favorite teams. The big news this week was that Philadelphia Eagles finally traded A.J. Brown. Look, I loved A.J. He was here for 4 years. He was great. The first 2 years, he was really fantastic. But he was still really good the last 2 years. I think his performance last year was a little bit down. He still had pretty good stats, but I don't know if it was just the offense. The offense wasn't very good, so you can't blame that all on AJ, but he clearly wanted to go. He asked for a trade. He wanted to go. This has been talked about for months. So since it was clear that they were going to do it once the June 1st timeframe had been reached, which saves them some cap money, they were going to trade him. They traded him to the New England Patriots. They got a first-round pick in 2028 and a fifth-round pick in 2027. So pretty good return. We drafted a receiver in the first round this year, Mekhi Lemon. So, and we have a new offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion, who came over from the Green Bay Packers. So hopefully, I wish AJ good luck with the Patriots. Hopefully the Eagles offense does just fine without him. That's my hope. It's hard to lose a guy who was that good, but, that's sports. For the Phillies, they're still up and down. They're winning still most of the games. The pitching has consistently been amazing. Christopher Sanchez yesterday, his scoreless streak finally ended at just over 50 innings. It's the fifth longest in Major League Baseball history, the longest for a left-hander in history. It was really amazing. He's just a spectacular pitcher from a guy that a few years ago, I had no real expectations for. He's turned into one of the best pitchers in the league, which I find astonishing. But that's great. I'm excited for the start of the World Cup. The U.S. men's national team, just as a note, has 5 players from the Philadelphia area on it, including Brendan Aronson from Leeds, which is my team in English football, and Christian Pulisic, who plays for AC Milan. He's from this area. There's a few other guys from around here. It's exciting. Ready to root for the U.S. men's national team. I'm really excited for the World Cup. Also excited to root for the U.S. women's national team. They're always great. They're a contender every time on the national stage, and they're really fantastic. So I'm excited to watch them as well. As far as upcoming trips, we've just about reached the big trip. In 3 weeks, slightly less than 3 weeks at this point, I'm going to Belgium with my family. This is a trip that I was supposed to do last year until I blew it up by having an expired passport. But we put it all back together. We're going in a few weeks. I'm really excited for this. We're going to be in Paris for a couple of days at the beginning, but the rest of the trip, other than one day, or 2 days, I suppose, is in Belgium. We'll be in Ghent, we'll be in Bruges, we'll be in Antwerp, we'll be in Brussels. We have 1 day in Lille, back in France, in the midst of everything there. We're also going to be in Poitou, in Belgium. And when we get closer to the trip, I'll post a few things that indicate kind of some of the big places where I'll be and around when I'll be there, in case anybody wants to come out, say hi. I always love that. But we've got some special things planned during that trip. In Poitou, we're going to be staying at St. Bernardus, which, as you may know, is my favorite beer in the world, St. Bernardus Abt 12. We're going to be visiting a few other breweries, including De Halfman in Bruges. We're going to be visiting the Duvel Mortgat Brewery. and we're going to be doing this fun in Brussels, a fun beer and food tour that I'm planning on making some content about. Um, it seems really neat. It's a nice long tour. I'll find out more details when I get there. But so we have those several things that are established. There's a lot of other places that we know we're going, restaurants and bars and things along the way. But the few things I mentioned are things that are definitely happening, and there will definitely be content coming about them. The trip itself is just something that I've wanted to do for so long as a huge fan of Belgian beer. And I love Europe. I love to travel. When we're in Paris, and we've been in Paris a couple of times, it's such a great city. But last time I was there was in 2019 when I ran the Paris Marathon. This time we're going to be there really briefly, and there's a few restaurants that we've been to a couple of times that we really want to get back to. There's one really great bar that does food, mussels and beer, Belgian kind of stuff, that also play a lot of rugby on their screens there. It's called Au Trappiste in Paris. We're definitely going to be there. I think that's on the 24th or 25th. So really excited. If any of you are in the area, come on out and say hi, please. So I wanted to briefly address something that I've been thinking about. It comes up a lot in conversations with people. It comes up a lot in the comments on my videos, and it has to do with the whole thing about 3,400 different beers. I get that comment all the time on there. Oh, it's the joke. They're rookie numbers, whatever. Quote from a movie. Always fun. It happens multiple times a day, so I guess it's not really all that funny the millionth time that you've read it. But I certainly don't take offense to it. It's fine. But it's an interesting thing being known as, the 3,000 beer guy or whatever, when I know a lot of people, not huge numbers of people, but I know a lot of people who have had a lot more than I've had. At the festival that I just went to, I met a bunch of people who had way more than I had. People even 10, 20,000 different beers. Crazy numbers, right? I don't say the thing about 3,400 different beers at the beginning of every video in order to be impressive, right? I went back when I started doing the videos, I was sort of scrambling for a format, trying different things, trying to figure out what would work and what wouldn't. And after a few months of doing these, and not very many people were listening, a few people were listening and watching, I said that one day. I looked at my Untapped, I was looking for some ideas, and I saw that at that time I was at about 2,375 unique beers. And I thought, oh, maybe that'll be interesting. So I opened the video saying I've had almost 2,500 different beers. Now, I probably should have said almost 2,400 because it took me a long time to get to 2,500 from 2,300. But anyway, people responded to it. They were interested. They asked me about it. They commented on it. It was clear that it sort of struck a nerve. So I started saying it every day. And then as I got to each milestone of 100, I would try to make something special out of it. So it's interesting. I like that it's something that people identify me with. But again, I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to say that it's way more than anybody else has ever had, because there are a lot of people out there who have had a lot more than that. Again, if I counted tasters, which as I mentioned earlier, I don't do, I would probably have double what I have. But it's not, to me, about growing the number as fast as possible. It's just about the philosophy of wanting to always try something new. I love trying new beer. I love when somebody else tells me, hey, I watched your video about such and such beer, and I went and tried it for the first time, and I loved it. Like, that's my favorite thing. So if me saying that I've tried however many different beers inspires you to try a few more than you have already, that's sort of my point. I love that. So there we go. Okay, so for the feature this week, since we're not doing an interview today, I thought that I would give you a recap of my trip out to the Firestone Walker Invitational Beer Festival. That's where I was this past weekend. I flew out on Thursday. I stayed in Paso Robles, and I confirmed while I was there, although I already knew it, that despite the origins of the name of the city, and it was, I guess, originally Paso Robles. I think actually there were a few extra words in there originally, but they don't pronounce it Paso Robles. They pronounce it Paso Robles. They really do. It's big wine country out there. The whole area has so many wineries. Firestone Walker just kind of fits in the middle as a brewery, and a great brewery. I believe that one of the owners of Firestone Walker has a brother who is a big winemaker. He might have been on The Bachelor also, something like that. I don't know a whole lot about that, but I did hear that being discussed somewhere. But anyway, this was the 13th festival that Firestone Walker has done over the 30 years that they've been in existence. And it's pretty much every year now that they do it. And it's a bit of an unusual festival in that this isn't just breweries signing up to come to it. All the breweries at this festival are invited there by the head brewer of Firestone Walker, Matt Brynildson. He chooses the breweries that he would like to have at the festival, and there's a lot of cachet to being at this festival, so I think most of them jump at the chance when they get the opportunity. I was invited out to this festival by Firestone Walker to help them promote it, to put up content while I was there, to talk about it afterward. In the video that I posted the other day, this podcast isn't part of that, but it's just, I wanted to fill you guys in because I had such a great time, and there was a lot of just interesting beer stuff happening there. I also was excited to go because it was a chance to see my daughter. My daughter lives out in Los Angeles, and she drove up Saturday morning. It's about a 3.5 hour drive. Drove up to Paso Robles, was with me at the festival, and then at the brunch on Sunday morning as well. I'll take any chance I get to see my daughter. Because she lives across the country, I obviously don't get to see her nearly as often as I would like to. Now, I've never been to that area of California before. I've been to LA a bunch of times. I've been to San Francisco. I've been up in northeast of San Francisco in like the Lake Tahoe area. The closest I've ever been to Paso Robles was last November. I think it was November. I was in Fresno and Clovis, California, to run the Two Cities Marathon. That's not super close to Paso Robles, but it's sort of generally in that central California area. And Paso Robles was really nice. They call it the Central Coast area, but they were a decent distance from the actual coast. Just a small town, but just really nice, like I said. Now, I've been a huge fan of Firestone Walker for a very long time. They're one of my favorite breweries. They just make so much good beer. And the opportunity to visit the brewery itself was really exciting to me. So on Friday morning, I got to go to the brewery for the first time, and I got to do a tour, a media tour with David Walker, one of the owners and founders of Firestone Walker. Obviously, he's the Walker part of Firestone Walker. And he gave us a great tour. He was very entertaining, very interesting, told us a lot of the history of the place. He doesn't typically do the tours, so I think we got a little bit different angle on the tour than you would get in the regular tours that they do there every day. It was really cool. Great facility, really quite big, and really impressive as far as how they brew their beer, how their bottling lines run, how their canning lines run, all their quality control processes, all the thought that goes into the brewing of every beer. Top-notch equipment. But we saw the pieces that they had originally when they first started, and then how it's grown since then. I believe you said they have the capability of brewing up to 1 million barrels in a year, and that's quite a lot. That's a pretty big place. It doesn't compare to the giant breweries, the big macro breweries, the Anheuser-Busch's and places like that, obviously. But as far as craft beer goes, nice big place with a lot of capacity. After the tour, I got to have lunch in their brew pub right there at the brewery. Place was packed. Now, a lot of people were coming in for the festival on Saturday. There was also a block party in the afternoon for people in the area. So a lot of people had descended on the brewery early and went to the brew pub for lunch. I sat at the bar. It was actually kind of funny. I unfortunately, during my trip, I never got to meet Matt Brynildson, the head brewer of Firestone Walker. But so I was sitting at the bar eating lunch. There were these very nice guys that were sitting next to me. They might have had a few already that day. And so they were very talkative, very chatty, very fun, having a good time talking to them. And wasn't overly aware of all of the people sitting around me. And then at some point, the guy who was sitting on the other side of me got up to leave, and someone came up and started talking to him and called him Matt. So I turned to look. Sure enough, it was Matt Brynildson, and I just hadn't met him, but I had been sitting right next to him at the bar. So one of these days, I hope to meet him. Again, I'm a big fan of the beer that he makes. He's an icon in this industry. Really just a top-notch brewer. Had a great lunch. After lunch, they had a block party just right there next to the brewery. And it had lots of people came in for that. There was lots of food, lots of beer. There was live music, all that kind of thing. For the media and the brewers and stuff like that, there was a special area for us with some special pours. And I got to have some really great beer while I was there. I made a video about one of those beers on that day, on Saturday, on Friday, I should say, and posted that up. It was really cool, but I met so many nice people. I get to those things and I tend to kind of keep to myself a little bit. I don't really know why. I'm not antisocial, but I don't automatically gravitate toward other people. At some point early on, I realized that I shouldn't do that. So I went and I sat with some people, had some nice conversations. That made it a really fun experience. I enjoyed talking to everybody that I met while I was out there. A few other content creators, lots of people in the beer making industry. Very cool, very fun. So that evening, they had a barbecue just for the industry people, the media, the brewers, the sponsors, all of that kind of thing. This was at the event center in Paso Robles. Again, more good beer, good food, just lots of nice people, lots of fun. Really enjoyed that first day. It was great. Saturday was the big event. Now, before the big event, as I mentioned earlier, I went and did that run in the park nearby there. That was cool. It was a great way to start off the day. I'm not one of those to get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and run, but I'll go at 7 or 8, get a nice run in, get back, get cleaned up, get to the fest. The big part of the fest was opening at 12 o'clock, but there was a 1-hour VIP portion of the fest that was from 11 to 12 when you can get, it's all the same stuff, I suppose. Maybe some of the brewers had a few extra things out during the VIP, but mostly you get access to all these brewers without the huge lines because there weren't nearly as many people in for the VIP. So we spent that first hour checking out where everything was, what all the options were, having some beer from the places that we wanted to hit the most. And then at 12 o'clock, just the floodgates open and lots of people came in. And all of a sudden there were lines everywhere. That's to be expected at a place like this. And none of the lines were so out of control that, they dominated your whole day. Like you're going to have lines. It's just not as easy as just walking straight up and getting the beer you want, a minute in. So, when you go to these things, the VIP part is definitely worth it if you have the opportunity to do that. But we had such great beer there and talking to the people at the booths, the brewers and the people who work at the breweries is always so rewarding for me. I met a lot of people who knew who I was, which is fun, is cool. But I would say most of them didn't know, and that's fine. I don't need them to know. I knew their breweries, or even a lot of them I didn't know. Get a chance to try them, get a chance to see what they're about, try some different styles that I might not necessarily order, because you can just walk up with your tasting glass, have them pour you a bit, and give it a try. If you don't like it, you move on to the next one. In the video that I made the other day, I called out a few of the breweries that I appreciated the most as far as the beer that I tried from them. One was Horace Aged Ales from California. Their beer speaks for itself. It's just really cool, really refined, well thought out barrel aged beers that obviously there's a lot of care that's taken in making these beers. They had a big line from start to finish. They finished pouring fairly early, I think, because I think they ran out. They were very popular. Boulevard Brewing from Kansas City, really enjoyed talking to them, really enjoyed drinking their beer, as I always do. I've been a big fan of their beer for a long time. And Fonta Flora Brewing, I mentioned them earlier as far as the beer that I liked best at the fest. Again, they're from North Carolina. To me, they're barley wine specialists, but I don't even know if that's how they see themselves, because they make all kinds of beer, very popular, really good quality stuff. Also, Side Project from St. Louis, had some great beer from them. Omnipolo from Sweden, their stuff was great. Garage Project might have been the big hit of the festival. These guys had a long line even during the VIP. And once the floodgates opened, they had a very long line the entire length of the festival. Part of it was they were doing this really cool beer. It was a barrel, I think it was a barrel age. It was definitely a stout. And they were using some kind of electric hot poker that they would stick down, they would sterilize it, they would stick it down in the beer, which would cause the sugars in the beer to caramelize, giving it a whole different mouthfeel and flavor than you would have otherwise. So everybody was super intrigued by this. These guys are from New Zealand. They always do interesting things. I think they try to outdo themselves every year with something clever, something neat. But the baseline of it is that the beer is really good. So I don't think you can pull off those things. It's not going to, if your beer itself isn't that good, doing all that other stuff isn't going to make it much better. But these guys are starting from a really strong base, doing clever things. So people lined up for that just all day long. Now, interspersed throughout the festival, there were food kiosks, like stands, just like there were places to get the beer. Every third or fourth one had food, which were area restaurants in Central California that came out to serve basically sample sizes of their different foods. There were lots of different kinds of tacos, pizza, hot dogs, and sliders, and ceviche. I saw several different kinds of ceviche. There were a lot of different options, and people were definitely enjoying all of that. This was all included in the ticket price, so it was easy to just kind of graze as you went along. You didn't have to have a big meal. Obviously, I made sure that I ate enough because I was drinking a lot of beer. A lot of the beer I was drinking was high alcohol beer, so I needed to make sure I had food. There was also water available in lots of places. Stay hydrated. It was very warm that day, and you were taking in a fair amount of alcohol. So you're going to be smart. You're going to drink water. You're going to eat some food. You're going to take care of yourself and make sure you don't start wobbling around. There was live music. The center of the festival had a stage, and all day long there were a few different bands that played there. Very entertaining, high energy stuff that kept the crowd going. And even that center area with the bands, it was surrounded by more of the beer options, including a big section for Firestone Walker themselves, pouring their own stuff. But the music was a nice little break from the rest of it. Lots of fun. I would say, I've mentioned all the highlights. For me, the other big highlight was just meeting so many of my followers, so many people who watch my videos, people now who listen to the podcast. All day long, people were coming up to me, taking photos with me, just having a chat about what beers I was drinking, what beers they were drinking, where they're from. I love meeting people who watch my stuff. I mean, I love meeting people who don't watch my stuff, but it's very rewarding to have so many people know me. So many people tell me they like the channel, and maybe even wanted my opinion on whatever beer they were drinking. So that's a lot of fun. I don't know what they do with these photos. A few of them get posted to Instagram, I've seen, because I get tagged in those sometimes. But I guess it's just something that people keep. I still, maybe I get a little bit uncomfortable with it every once in a while because I still think it's strange that people want to take a picture with me. But it's cool. I'm used to it at this point. So I try not to make too big a deal out of it being weird. It is fun and everybody's always really nice. So I'm very appreciative of that. After the festival on Saturday evening, my daughter and I went to Paso Robles Brewery, which was right up the street from where our hotel was. I had seen it when we drove in, so I decided to go there and check it out. Had a nice dinner there, had some good beer there, met the owner who was very nice, enjoyed our time there as well. So I did get to experience a brewery outside of the festival. Then on Sunday, everything was wrapping up. My daughter was going to be driving me back down to San Luis Obispo to the airport. On the way, we stopped back at the brewery, Firestone Walker Brewery, and had brunch. Very nice brunch. It was a little early in the morning for beer, but I thought, all right, well, I'm wrapping the thing up and it's a beer festival, so I'll have a beer. Actually, I had one from a nice lager from Side Project, and had a very nice breakfast / lunch. Got myself, my daughter got me the rest of the way to the airport, and I spent the rest of the day flying home through Dallas. I didn't get home until about 2:00 in the morning Eastern time, so it was a long travel day. All in all, it was really fun. I'm really glad I went. I hope I get to go again, and I enjoyed everything about it. Okay, so that's my episode for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you give the podcast a like or a subscribe or a follow. It depends on what service you're listening on. But you do those things and it helps it spread. It helps other people get to see it. Please share this with your friends if you think they would like it. I'd really love to grow this podcast because I'd like to keep doing it. I'd like to keep bringing more beer content to you guys. So make sure you hit that like or follow or subscribe or whatever the different options are. Leave a review or a comment. That helps too. That other people will see it based on you writing those things. The first couple of episodes have done very well. I think this can grow. I think we can keep doing it for a while, expand it, bring in more guests. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So again, thanks so much for being here. I'll talk to you next week.